Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new series, Talking to People Who Know Things. And we're going to travel all around the world to talk to these people. And today, on episode 1, we're going to travel all the way to the beautiful country of Iran. Let's see what's happening in Iran today. Hi, everybody. We have a special guest today, someone who has learned English very well as a second language and hopefully can teach us how she did it. This is Hanieh. Hanieh, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Peter. Thanks for having me today. I am Hanieh, an English teacher from Iran.
Now, my first question that everybody wants to know, how did you learn English? What did you do to get to the level you are now at?
Like all learners, I started to learn the second language in schools, language schools. After university, I started to learn it, and I remember I spent all day learning and studying language. But step by step, I improved my language, and after that, I decided to be a teacher. I enjoy teaching, and teaching really makes me to improve my language better.
Okay, but I think you're skipping a few steps for students that aren't ready to teach yet and are still needing to be taught. So, of course, yeah, you went to school. Everybody goes to school to learn English. But the people watching this video right now are thinking, yeah, I went to school too, and I'm still watching these videos because I didn't learn enough from school. Outside of school, what did you do to improve your English?
As you said, yes, many people are learning, but they are just theoretically, they just go to classes and come back. The most important time, the most important point to learn a language is practicing. I remember I changed everything in my day, all to-do list. I changed it to English form. If I wanted to study for my university, I tried it to, if I could, I tried to use it in English. If I wanted to watch any videos, I tried to watch it without subtitle, without translation. And these are small points, these are small tasks help me a lot.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a start. Yeah. So you were learning on your own by switching your to-do lists into English, and but it's hard to like, probably the key to learning this language is to talk and to speak and to listen to people speak properly and to respond. And you're living in Iran, where there aren't that many opportunities to speak to native English speakers. How would you have a conversation or speak in English in a country which is English is a second language?
And yeah, I just should correct you a little, because in here it's not the second language, it's the foreign language, and it is more difficult to learn it. Because when it's the second language, you have many sources around you, but as you said, we had nothing. So internet can help, can be the biggest help to learn. After that, reading books, start finding some people, some native speakers in social media, try to watch and listen as much as I could to native speakers. Um, I don't say that English songs are very helpful, but it can help. I listen a lot, my ears always working.
Mm-hmm. So you're not recommending singing English songs? You didn't try that?
It's not good to improve. It's just, we can have it for fun, because in English songs, in all songs, we don't have correct structures. We don't have sometimes, I'm not sure about this part, but I think sometimes even the pronunciation is not as correct as we want, because they sing it faster. They just sometimes link them too much. So we have to find those songs which are slow and, not very fast, like rap music. So music is always the last choice for me, but watching, listening to podcasts, and I'm always not the movie person. I'm talk shows, TV shows, the TED Talks. I think they are more important and more useful than movies, because movies are dialogues, but talk shows are real, and we can learn more from talk shows.
Okay, so when you're watching these talk shows or these clips from YouTube, are you just listening, or are you also repeating what you're hearing?
Most of the time, most parts is a listening part. I'm listening, but when I'm free, when I'm alone, I try to repeat those sentences find those new words, new collocations, and even sometimes beautiful sentences. Sometimes they use some words in a correct way, put them in a correct and beautiful sentence. So I try to pick them, save them in my mind, and use them whenever I need.
Yeah, the best advice I give for students learning on their own when watching things, and watching for me is the key, but it's not just watching, it's watching, repeating. And I highly recommend get a movie or get a TED Talk, get something you're interested in. Personally, I like movies a lot because I like the dialogue, because dialogues are generally real. And I prefer movies to sitcoms or TV shows because movies allow real English. They can say the bad words, and which is necessary because people speak bad words in real life. And movies, I find, have more natural dialogue than a TV show. But TV shows are useful too. But you can't be passive when watching a show to learn English. You have to be aggressive. And that means stop the movie or stop the show. Every line, stop. So if you hear, "Hey, man, what's up?" Stop. And then repeat what you heard. "Hey, man, what's up?" while recording your voice on your phone, and then listen back to the way they heard it. You heard it in the movie. "Hey, man, what's up?" Then listen back to your own voice. Whoa, is that me? Like, that sounds terrible. But eventually, the brain and the tongue will start to become friends, and they'll start to work together, and you'll start to sing the English. Actually, can I tell you one of my favorite stories about ESL that wasn't ESL.
Sure.
Japanese is a second language. Years ago, I used to teach in New York City at a kind of a fancy school. And one of the teachers there had taught John Lennon Japanese in the 70s. And I was fascinated by this. I'm a big John Lennon fan and big people who learn stuff fan. And I asked her, tell me something interesting about John Lennon. And she didn't really have very many things to say. But the one thing she said that stood out that I'll never forget, she thought about it and she said, John Lennon was probably my best student because he would sing the Japanese back to me, that he could hit the notes of the language, and that he could just find the voice of Japanese by singing it, and then he could imitate her voice. And so for you, I guess singing isn't such a good thing, but I think singing is actually kind of underrated because you get that earworm, that thought that doesn't go away in a song.
Yeah, go into the rhythm then.
Yeah, Spanish. I would sing Spanish, and now to this day, I can remember certain Spanish lines or dialogues, but not from a dialogue, but from a song, because I can hear the music. And music forces you to keep a rhythm. So personally, I'm a big fan of music, especially with this John Lennon story. He would sing the Japanese, and he was her best student. But in terms of thinking in English, what's your advice to learn how to think in English? Because that's really the ultimate goal, isn't it?
And that's, I think, the most difficult part, because we are born with our mother tongue. So it is in our soul, in our spirit. We cannot stop it, especially in challenging situations. You cannot stop your mother tongue. But I tried hard. I tried very hard. Whenever I was practicing English, I sometimes even stopped myself and correct myself again. And these practicing, I clearly remember that one day I found that, I'm thinking in English. And that was, that day was like a miracle, like a magic in my life, that I thought, because I'm an introverted person, I think a lot. I talk a lot to myself. And the time that I got it, I'm thinking in the second language. That was the point that I say, I did it.
But how did you learn to do that? I mean, did you have little step-by-step, like you'd think in English for like 10 seconds and then stop and then 20? Like, how would you learn to think in English? What were the actual constructive methods you took?
That was for me. Okay, I think if you find your method, I just try to stop translating words from my mother tongue to English one. For example, if somebody asks me, describe your day, my teacher asked me these kind of simple questions. I just started to find some easy and simple word about my day. Okay, school, work, practicing, I don't know, cleaning my bedroom. Just finding the words, adding some adjectives, adverbs to them, just make them wider and wider. And step by step, the English sentence was built in my mind. I didn't need to translate them. I always tell my student, when you say, I went to work, so find work, add the verb is always go, add it to it. Then you can add some times to it, some, I don't know, how did you go to work, some ways of going. Just add 2 or 3 words to it, then just make the sentence, simple sentence. You don't need to translate everything from your language to the second one, because we are native speakers in our language, so we can speak and we can use many words. Maybe we cannot use them in the second language, so we don't need to translate every word. In that part, we feel limited, so we cannot express everything inside, and it stops us. So just choose some words that we know and make a sentence. Don't care about the details. Nobody is expecting us to be that perfect, to be like the native speaker. Just to start talking.
Yeah, that's the key. And I think we've talked about that before, how being fearless, not being afraid to make mistakes is one of the ultimate ways to learn the language. Of course, you're going to make mistakes. And I always remind people that this is a big world here. And most people in this world don't speak English as a first language. And even I make mistakes when I speak English as a first language. I'm not embarrassed by that. Who cares? And neither should you or anyone watching this video. Be the majority. Understand, all people who speak English as a second language are the majority in this world. Most people don't speak it properly. And even the ones that grew up speaking it properly don't. So have no fear to make mistakes and get over that fear as soon as you can. And that will help you start to get better. But in terms of thinking in English, the brain is an underrated muscle. Now that's a bad example of a muscle, but the brain is a great example of a muscle that needs a bit of a workout. So if you think in English, I like your philosophy. Start small, like I go to work, and then start adding I go to work fast, or start adding adjectives or adverbs, and then start I go to work by car. That's a great thing. And so you start small, just like a short workout for a guy who's just getting into working out. You maybe run for like half a kilometer, then you run for a kilometer, then you run for 2. So set little goals for yourself along the way by thinking. But you can think in English on your own all the time. Like if you're driving to work, think, what am I doing right now? I'm driving to work. What is the speed? I'm driving at 60 kilometers an hour. The car just passed me. The car is blue. Start thinking in English to think in English. It's really that simple, but also that difficult. But you got to the point now where you're teaching, obviously. And now, how did you get from just being fluent in English to being ready and confident enough to teach other people to do what you're doing now?
Actually, I think I'm a teacher by myself, not just for being an English teacher. I enjoy teaching. I really love to be in an academic atmosphere, either as a student or as a teacher. I enjoy classes, teaching, books. I enjoy it. And my university major was completely different. I finished my university and I started to learn English language better and better. And step by step, I saw that I can transfer it. I can give it to another person. And all the time when I teach, I always say, okay, I'm somebody like you. I just started sooner. I'm not an exception. I just started some years ago, so I am here. And I'm telling you that I had many fears, I had many problems. And as you said, as a native speaker, you make many mistakes. And here, as a non-native person, as a teacher, I make mistakes either. You know, when I'm talking, sometimes when I'm a little stressed, I'm nervous, or we have some mistakes in our speaking. Now I'm a teacher for over 6 or 7 years. I'm teaching and I enjoy teaching. And I think because I enjoy it, because I can transfer it to people, I'm an easy teacher. People can understand me. Most of the time I say, I can understand how you feel. Yeah, maybe it sounds cliche, excuse me. Maybe it sounds cliche, but we always say, don't afraid. Okay, how we don't, it is scary to speak in another language in public, but we can do some practices, some tips to be better.
Now, you mentioned that as a teacher, you've learned the language even better. Is there anything that you learned from teaching English that you didn't realize from learning English, and anything you can share there?
Maybe, yes, because when you are studying, you don't, maybe you forget the details, or maybe you don't need to learn all the details, structures, names of different pieces of grammars. You don't need those small points. But when you start teaching, first you have to be updated. You have to be ready completely for your classes. And sometimes you have to study again because you want to teach it and you want to be ready. So I start, that was like a review, kind of review and become in a higher level at the same time. Yes, sometimes I check my previous books, the books that I have in my student part, and I say, "Oh, I forget it. Oh, I forgot it," and it's like a review. It comes up in my mind.
Mhm. And how about phrasal verbs? How comfortable are you using phrasal verbs or teaching phrasal verbs? Is this something you get into? Either as
That is, I think, the most difficult part because we have one verb with different meanings. I always say that is difficult. I know it is difficult. It is difficult for us because we have, I think in our language, we don't have that part. And the problem that we have in translating, I just try to make it for myself, make it my own by making many examples, make some personal examples and try to memorize them. Sometimes you can feel it in the context. We cannot memorize all the words. We're not a robot.
No, we're not. But I mean,
Oh,
phrasal verbs they make up. There's one right there. Make up
oh,
so much of the language. In fact, make up. I don't want to scare anybody. Has actually 8 different meanings,
yeah,
and
different.
that in your head. Which makeup is it? Is it makeup on the face, or you know, 7 days makeup a week, or I made up with my friend. We stopped fighting. I made it up to Alaska. I went to Alaska. I mean, that's really confusing for a student. But that's actually, I find phrasal verbs are one of the keys to learning because my guys, the English is first speaker guys, native English speaker guys, we use phrasal verbs all the time, and we don't realize how difficult it is for you guys learning this language. So instead of saying, you know, something that most people would understand, like, did you decide? Yeah, most students would understand that. We might use a phrasal verb. Did you make up your mind? And you've never heard that word, make up your mind, and you have an idea of like putting lipstick on your brain. What the hell is that? So how would you, what advice would you give to anybody just to use phrasal verbs properly, or at least just understand them?
Again, I should repeat it that they are difficult and they are always challenging. We have one get up, get on, get off. And we have many things, and I'm always I have to say I don't like get and take. Why you have two verbs with 10 meanings, with 20 meanings? That's so
Everything.
challenging. Yeah,
Everything.
yeah, that's very difficult. Sometimes I say if you are reading or listening, that is easier because you are just you have the material and you have to just understand it. Rely on the context, so you can guess the meaning. Sometimes
Mhm.
maybe you
Yeah.
can, maybe you didn't, maybe you don't get it exactly, but you can understand what does it mean.
Mhm. Yeah.
Understanding is easier, but if you want to use it, it's the difficult part to produce the words. Practicing, I think, just making as many sentences as you can. And as I said before, make it your own. If you learn makeup, try to make as many sentences about yourself with different meanings of it. And it takes time, but it works.
Yeah. One of the things I recommend for that is everyone should get maybe a piece of paper and a pen and write down 5 new phrasal verbs that, or just meanings of phrasal verbs a day. Keep it in your pocket. And when you have nothing to do, like you're sitting on a bus or train or Uber or something, just read it, go through it. There's a good phrasal verb, to go through it. And just have it in the front of your mind. So as soon as it's your turn to say something, like instead of saying a word you're comfortable with, like I have decided, stop yourself and go to the word that's the word of the day, or one of the 5 words a day, like make up your mind. So physically, but mentally stop yourself from the words you are comfortable with, like I have decided. Stop that and start the sentence again while you're speaking. I have made up my mind. You do that 5-10 times a day with the same word. At the end of the day, you'll go to sleep with that word on your brain. You wake up and you've got a new word. That's one of my best advice. Just limit, don't try and, it's like running through an art gallery and try and look at all the paintings. Then at the end of the day, what did you see? Nothing. Like, what did it look? I don't remember. I saw all the paintings, but I don't remember any of them. Same thing with vocabulary. Students try and review by going through all the words they learned that day. And maybe not a great idea. Maybe just stay with 5 or keywords and use them all day long. And then the next day move on to 5 words. Yeah, 5 words a day, they're not many. 5 words a day, every day for a year, you have a whole new vocabulary.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. And I'm a fast speaker. I don't know if that is a correct one or not, but I always speak too fast, even in my mother tongue or in English. And when we are speaking fast, we make some errors. I always recommend that when you want to start answering or talking, just for some seconds, 3-5 seconds, just pause, think, then start talking. Because that was my problem, and I try to arrange it, manage it. And I think if we speak, as you said, a little slower, a little more focused, our error will be less, our new words will be more useful.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like exercise, you start slowly, but the motion's the same. And with the same motion, with a little bit of practice, you're up and running. And suddenly, hey, look at me, I'm speaking English. So I hope this has helped anybody who's looking for good advice. And Hanieh, you're great. And I think a lot of people look at you now as a model for how to get from here to teaching level. So thank you very much for all your advice today. It's been useful for me as a teacher to go out and teach some more good advice. And I hope it's been helpful for anybody to watch this.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanieh. So bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.